Magic the Gathering Finance, then and now. What is Magic the Gathering Finance, the old boogeyman term from forever ago? Wait, boogeyman? MTG Finance is a bad thing? How did it get here? Why is it bad? All of that on this episode of Magic the Gathering. Deepest gratitude to our esteemed patrons that allow us to do this channel full time. We love you so much. We love you, 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 love you a million infinity. All right. What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to the day. I'm going to talk about MTG Finance and what it means to me and how I approached MTG Finance in the past and how I approach it now. I'm going to discuss what it means to me now, today. This is an old channel. 2017 is when it started. We are now in 2024, so it has been a minute and it has evolved. But what is MTG Finance? Well, you would be surprised to know that it is actually a place. But we'll get into that later. Before we do, I want to talk about our channel sponsors, Card Conduit. If you are sitting on a stack of cards and you want to sell them, if they're $1 or more, go find a service that works for you. Use Card Conduit. You could find links to all of our sponsors in the description of the video. We have codes that you can use to save on fees. We have affiliate links that directly help out the channel. Card Conduit is a great place to sell your cards. TCG Player, if you are buying cards, take all that money you made on Card Conduit and take it over to TCG Player. But first, use our affiliate link. TCG Player is a robust marketplace with tons of different sellers, and you can find someone that works for you. And you can find a competitive price and buy those cards at the cheapest possible price. Additionally, Dragon Shield, we've been using these sleeves forever and it's not going to change. Best sleeves in the MTG multiverse. MTG stocks for when we are tracking the price of cards. If you want to get that good price history, a long drawn out price history, then MTG stocks is the best service for you. They have tons and tons of all-time highs, all-time lows. They have great articles over there. Definitely check out MTG stocks. And then finally, Moxfield for when you're building your decks. Best way to organize your cards online. And then finally, our wonderful patrons. Check out our Patreon if you want to get involved on a deeper level. That's a great way to do it. Let's get into it. I'm done thanking everyone. Going back to late 2016 or 2017, before we started the channel, I really loved playing Commander Unlimited. I dabbled in Modern at the time. I'd played some Standard, but more than anything, at this point, from starting in 2009, like years later, I really love to hunt new spoilers, and I really like to look for cards that I thought were going to be staples. Back then, there were a lot less spoilers, but essentially I was looking for sleepers, cheap stuff that I thought would break out, meaning like I thought like a format would find the card and like it. At that time as well, like around 2016, 2017, Joel had always loved YouTube, and we had a mutual thing that we enjoyed, which was Magic. And he said, hey, you know, you like specking cards. You're always showing off these specs in our group texts. Why don't we, you know, make a channel? You know, Joel and a few other friends got me into MTG in the beginning. And at this point, you know, we were still playing Commander, but, you know, for the most part, Magic the Gathering was very casual. I was mostly doing like my own thing, just like doing limited events and that kind of stuff. For example, one of the big moments that got me into MTG Finance was the 2013 Comic-Con exclusive. I think that product was sold for $65, but I remember that year in Comic-Con waiting overnight outside so that I could be one of the first people in the Hasbro line, because we knew that the Magic stuff and some other stuff from that booth was going to sell out. I do remember buying two of the Comic-Con exclusive that year, which I believe was the max, and I might have paid somebody to buy another one or something like that. But I do remember flipping those for $65 for like 10x that value shortly after the convention. What a dirty, rotten scalper I was. But how cool how I bought something for $65 and sold it for 10x due to scarcity. What a time. I had tasted the forbidden fruit of MTG Finance gains. So back when we first started doing the channel, I remember Joel said he would do all the editing, but a lot has changed, and since then we have gone full time. One of the biggest changes since then is how we approach MTG Finance and what it means to me now and how it's changed on our channel. One of the first cards we talked about on Jake and Joel was Walking Ballista, and I bought a lot of them. I remember seeing the card spoiled, and some of my peers in MTG were low on the card. Someone even said it was like a bad hangerback walker, and I think that might have been Neil. Shout out to Neil. I thought the card was cool because it was a colorless card that could provide direct damage in colors like white and blue that don't typically get those effects at all at an efficient cost. I acquired a lot of copies of Walking Ballista at $3 to $4 a card. I remember one of our early Instagram posts was just a pic of a bunch of foil Walking Ballistas. But why? Why buy so many? Why would a player want more than 4 copies of a card? For multiple decks, you could just move them around between decks. It just seems like a waste, right? Well, the goal wasn't to get a bunch of extra copies for decks. The goal was to acquire a bunch of them and then sell them for a higher price and make some money when people woke up to how good the card was. Then I could flip it into a better card or just pocket the difference. And when the card took off, that's exactly what I did. I sold most of the ballistas, foil and non-foil, for like 5 times the price that I paid. I locked in those sweet, sweet gains. Unrelated, but between January and April of 2017, right around the time Aether Revolt would have been popular and I would have been buying tons of Walking Ballistas, Nvidia had a high price of $30.23 and a low of $23.79, meaning if I had taken the amount I spent on, for example, this invoice and this one and this third invoice and this one and this and this and this one and this and also this and this and this one and this invoice and this invoice and this one and this invoice, this one and this one, and I took those 18 invoices totaling $696 of shit that I bought, mostly duplicates, mostly SRAM Senior Edificer, and put it into Nvidia at the time, let's say on January 1st, when it had a $26.10 open and a $26.90 close, I'd be sitting on around 26.5 shares of Nvidia, or roughly $22,000 today. Or for you high-end MTG players, it would have been about 7.5 Tabernacle at Pendrell Vales if Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale was split into fractional shares. I say this because even though people in MTG Finance are selling cards they bought for $2 to $4 for 4 to 8, and 2xing, 3xing, or even 5 to 10xing their value, it pales in comparison to actual investing. For example, Nvidia is up 2,056% in the last 5 years. Then if you take all the time you need to list stuff, ship stuff, pay fees, and tax on stuff, you really have to wonder, is it worth it? I'd rather just buy common stock at that point. So I said MTG Finance was a place. The subreddit of MTG Finance. You used to see tons of posts of people doing exactly what I did with Walking Ballista on the MTG Finance sub. People buying out old foils or showing off an absurd amount of copies of their card that just needs this or that to make it pop off. Something like Aetherworks Marvel, for example, comes to mind. When you think about the Fallout Commander deck based around energy that just came out, Aetherworks was banned in Standard because it was so oppressive for the time, it goes to $1 because no one's playing it. Pre-variant era Mythic, and there it sat at $1 for years. But now the Energy Commander deck comes out, MH3 announcement of energy support, card goes to $10. Popular cards like Guardian Project and old obscure stuff like Theta Adel Acquisitor, even newer stuff like Trouble in Pairs. Many of your favorite cards have been someone's spec over in MTG Finance at one time or another. The first time I talked about this sub on the channel, it had maybe 40 to 50k subscribers, and today it's grown to more than 120,000 members. And while stuff like this, speccing a card for profit, it isn't gone, it's just much more rare that it works out. There are simply so many more cards that come out each year than in the past. In addition to the frequency of sets, each card gets a ton of different treatments. Etched, foil, rainbow foil, surge foil, confetti. For a card like Trouble in Pairs, we can look at something like scarcity of being only in a commander deck and collector boosters, and look at cards from the past that have done well that are similar. Cards like Smothering Tithe, Esper Sentinel, Heuristic Study, and so on. But this video isn't about speccing cards, just noting that this is one of the ways that I used to engage with MTG. I've bought a lot of cards at a low price that have appreciated in value, and I've bought a lot of specs that have stayed flat or lost value. So then why so much hate for MTG Finance? Why would the main Magic subreddit hand out lifetime bans with no appeal for posts showing off a 100x copy of a single card and people explaining why they think it's going to go up in price? Well, it's for a lot of reasons. They may be really cranky that they aren't getting enough engagement on Twitter, but when it comes to reserve list stuff, for example, meaning when old mechanically unique cards get bought out, they go up in price, and since they are finite, adjustments in price take a lot more time to happen. And let me tell you this, people on Twitter hate when something goes up in price. Dear God, am I going to leave that in? It is true. You may have to wait years for a bear market so that you can buy authentic stuff at a good price, is the point I'm trying to make. Even though players don't need them. What? Don't need them? Need what? Reserve list reprints, silly. If you're playing Commander, you're playing a casual, proxy-friendly format. If you are playing CEDH, you are in a format that recommends proxies. What a concept. The players in the most expensive format recommend proxies because they know how expensive the format that they love is to play, and they just want more people to play it. So unless you're playing like a strict legacy tournament, you don't need reserve list reprints at all. I know, mind blown, right? Wait, I don't need to pay $500 for a Mox Diamond so that I can play CEDH? Nope. Someone in the comments tell me how many formats there are in MTG that don't need reserve list cards. But still, people look back at Rudy with his stack of bizarre Bagdads and they see this terrible whale and not some weird hobbyist who likes to show off how much he has trapped himself in his own stuff. I think it's funny. Imagine him doing anything else but thinking about how much shit he has and how if he isn't doing anything related to that shit, he is almost assuredly thinking about all that shit and what he needs to do with it. I know, people listed those cards and he bought them. There's nothing really nefarious about it. Cards were for sale. He used his money to buy them, and then he showed it all off on his channel. It's honestly, it's really not that interesting, and at the end of the day, who cares? But I don't engage with MTG this way anymore. I just don't. We got to the turn of the video, everybody. Holy cow. This is where I tell you what MTG Finance means to me now and what it means on this channel these days. We still look for good cards and we see the value in sleepers, but since we are in the middle of, or, you know, I guess the beginning of the variant era with new secret layer after new secret layer and Universes Beyond sets and premium sets, all in addition to normal releases. When I say normal releases, there are play boosters, collector boosters, and every set is accompanied by like 4 commander decks and so on. It's a lot. And long gone are the days of Zendikar block when you get 3 sets that are all related and something new comes out every few months. There were so many less cards coming out so players could more quickly sort out what the sleepers were in a set. You could spec stuff. Now so many cards come out so frequently that any hits may stay under the radar for years or just go unnoticed entirely. And for someone trying to invest and make money on this game that isn't buying off a buy list with the intent to resell popular cards at a profit, or just buying finite reserve list staples, I see it as mostly a cute hobby. It's fun to make a few $100, but it doesn't sustain and you won't always be right, which means for every hit someone has to show off, there are 5 or 6 picks of junk they aren't showing you that are sitting in a box in the closet. And nowadays, when we say MTG Finance over here on Jake and Joel, we're essentially saying, you know, be smart. Don't buy scarce non-reserve list cards. They will be reprinted. Don't buy the all-time high price on a staple. It will be reprinted. For reprint equity. Buy cards when they're at all-time lows after they've been reprinted. You can minimize risk and reduce your exposure to a large loss. Wait after a set comes out a few months to buy singles. Don't buy during the prime hype window of the set. Wait for people to move on to the next shiny thing and then buy stuff that is out of sight, not of mind. Pre-order prices are inflated for a reason. They want to prey on your FOMO. They want you to buy early at a high price. Never buy a pre-order price of something. This is very rarely the wrong move, and sometimes being early is good, but 95% of the time you're shooting yourself or your wallet in the foot. So yeah, I really think MTG Finance needs to be rethought as far as what it means, because right now we're in one of the most expensive times ever for Magic the Gathering, and anything or any advice that saves me money on this game and still allows me to collect like I've enjoyed doing for years is very welcome. And that's really what we're about these days. So I just wanted to get this out there. It's been on my mind a while. Let me know your thoughts on MTG Finance. Put them in the comments. As always, thank you for spending your time with us. Big thanks to our channel sponsors that I shouted out at the beginning of the video. And also a huge thanks to our patrons. We appreciate you all so much. You allow us to do this full time. You are awesome. I hope all of you have a nice rest of your Sunday. And until next time, I will see you on the flippity. Goodbye.